Hello. You're about to watch a summary conversation between Louise from ATS and Heather Carter from Blenheim Palace, who we worked with to produce the online digital exhibition Churchill at Blenheim. This project was produced during the pandemic, and what we learned through that period was putting content online doesn't necessarily make a great visitor experience. It actually has to be designed from scratch with a view of the audience, their behaviours, and the content and the story, and together you then design and create a really great online experience.
Since the 1950s, when the palace opened properly to visitors, a Winston Churchill exhibition was created, which was lots of collections of letters and artefacts and involved lots of reading. So that exhibition existed and has evolved over time. And before COVID, we had 2 rooms or 3 rooms in the palace which told the story of Winston Churchill's life at Blenheim and his connections with the family. But it was in a very tight space, and it was a very small and tired exhibition. So through COVID happening, we realised in order to reopen the palace, we needed to create an exhibition for this audience that we knew that was out there, which was accessible, and actually bring it up to date, tell stories in the way that people can access and understand, rather than standing and reading lots and lots and lots of letters. So that was our inspiration, and we moved the story from the palace to another area in the basement of the palace, actually, which is a much bigger room and wider space. And so we could then install a very modern exhibition using digital tools and pictures and quotes and artifacts that we hadn't used before.
At the project kickoff meeting with Blenheim, we were looking for a nice clear brief for what they wanted to achieve with what we were going to be producing for them. We knew that they were going to be opening this exciting exhibition about Churchill and his connections with Blenheim. What we didn't have full sight of at the time was whether we were going to be creating a sort of a virtual experience of the exhibition that we were going to put online, or whether it was going to be a separate supporting experience. And actually what they wanted was the latter. So something that would work online as an experience that would support the visit for people who were going to go to the exhibition, and also for an experience for people who weren't going to go to the exhibition, and they would get enough information from it. We knew that they'd seen what we'd produced with the multimedia guides at Eltham Palace, and that they really liked the immersive element of that, where you were a party guest and you were seeing, a recreated party from that era. So we knew there was going to be quite a lot of filming work involved from the get-go. And it's quite a big team there as well, so there were quite a few stakeholders involved, which presents its own challenges, but we were excited to get going because they all seemed like a really nice team, and obviously a really exciting client to be working with.
When we embarked on this project, we knew that we had a very tight timeline. We'd been given some Cultural Recovery Fund money to help fund the project, and the grant came through to us in October, and we had to have completed the project by the following March. So we were looking for a creative partner. One, we knew we could work with as a team to deliver the project within that timeline. But we were also looking for partners that were willing to go the extra mile, think of something unique. We wanted this to be something that was not an off-the-peg project. We wanted to be using all different types of media, and we wanted to have something that was unique, that we could be really, really proud of. And we thought that ATS were the people that could deliver that for us.
Following the kickoff meeting, obviously we needed to then come up with a plan for how we were going to achieve everything that we needed to, which was in sort of equal parts daunting and exciting. So we hadn't done a big shoot for quite a while, so we were really excited to do a big shoot with a big cast, really high production values. It's always something that we look forward to as a team. But the deadlines were tight, and COVID was very prevalent at the time, so there were some challenges that we knew we were going to be needing to overcome. So it was a combination of excitement and trepidation, I think, when we first started.
It was really important for us to keep the Winston Churchill and his connection with Blenheim Palace, the story, alive. Because we already knew before lockdown that 22% of our visitors came because of Winston and his story with connections with Blenheim and the Marlborough family. And we wanted to keep the story alive in people's minds through lockdown, so that when we came out of lockdown, people would want to come and learn about him on site. And we also wanted to make this an accessible tool to other audiences, because we want to keep Winston Churchill's story alive in people's minds as we go through the years and progress on from when he passed away.
It was really important, particularly with the timescales involved, that we worked really, really closely with the Blenheim team. So from the outset, we decided that we would have regular weekly, or at the very least fortnightly, Zoom meetings with the whole project team, so that rather than losing lots of time with sort of back and forth, sending emails, we could sit down and present the deliverables and get feedback in real time. And that really helped, I think, with the process, and it helped to make it feel very collaborative as well. So, we could sit down and say, right, are we happy with the script? No, let's make some changes here. Are we happy with the casting? Are we happy with the costumes? All that sort of thing. So that was great, and I think worked really well.
The creative process was really smooth, and surprisingly so, because we were on such a tight timeline. But once we'd commissioned the project, the ATS script writers went to work and quickly picked out the themes that we wanted to display, and we wanted the exhibition to work very closely with the app, and vice versa, the app with the exhibition, that we're creating them alongside each other. So it wasn't just the fact of working with the ATS team. We've got the exhibition team and our in-house team, and we all had worked collaboratively to produce each product. And ATS worked and produced a project timeline, and they with key markers at several points, which we had to agree and sign off on the work so far. And it was a really smooth but fast process to get to the end.
One of the big challenges that we had was how to present Churchill, who everyone is very used to seeing in black and white, in colour, and make him believable and credible. The guy that we had cast is someone who works at Blenheim quite regularly, and he was fantastic. But when we first saw him on screen, he actually looked a little bit too modern and rosy cheeked somehow. So we actually came up with 4 different grades. So we graded the footage in 4 different ways and presented it to the client to get a sort of a feel for, okay, do we want to go completely black and white? Do we go a bit sepia? Do we just tone down the saturation? And luckily we were able then to agree a grade that looked good, was still in keeping with the time period that we were filming in, but that wasn't completely washed out and still looked really high quality.
The digital exhibition that we have completely relates to the exhibition on site. So the storylines are very similar. So we talk about the childhood, the lineage, Churchill as a socialite, his prolific writing, his military career. So the storyline through the app reflects that. And in fact, if you go to the exhibition, you learn bits of things, you see bits of things, and you get the flavour of Winston Churchill's life and his connection with Blenheim. But on the app you can dig deeper, and there's a lot more information. So the idea is and is that people will come to the exhibition and explore, and then want to know more and go on the app, or they'll have visited the app and they'll have read all about the subject, and they'll come and they'll see the real life objects and paintings and pictures and artifacts that back up the story and enhance it. So both work really well together.
We were definitely quite anxious about filming during COVID times, chiefly because we wanted to make sure that we weren't endangering anybody's safety. So we needed to make sure that first and foremost everyone was safe and we weren't putting anyone at unnecessary risk. So the first thing we really had to think about was, how do we achieve this immersive feel of populating the palace with lots of people and creating a believable party environment in the palace with as fewer people on screen at any one time as possible. So the first thing that we did was we decided that we would try and film as many scenes as we could with just our Winston character in shot. So we planned and prioritised those. Next, we cast young Churchill and young Clemmy, and we'd film all of their scenes independently so that there would just be 2 people on set. And then we knew that we would have a couple, at least, of big party scenes. And so we decided we would film all of those on the last day. So you've only got one day where you've got lots of people on site. And then, of course, we had to think about testing. We decided to go with lateral flow tests because the evidence was that they were perfectly safe and obviously cheaper and easier than the PCR tests to organise. So every member of the cast was sent to lateral flow tests so that they could take one 3 days before coming to site and one day before coming to site. We had backups for all of the main members of cast in case anybody tested positive. In terms of hair and makeup, of course, that presents new challenges. So the hair and makeup team, luckily, had both been working in TV through COVID, so we're very used to the procedures. So they were wearing full face masks and, individual makeup applicators for every actor, everything getting cleaned in between.
Timings, I think everybody was a bit nervous about the timeline. So that was the biggest challenge. Are we going to get it done in time? But again, we were all in lockdown. So we were hindered by the fact it was online meetings. Archives were closed. If we wanted to get any pictures or letters from the Churchill archives, they were working part-time. So getting access to material was quite difficult. There was filming on site, and I know Louise had a real challenge working with the actors, working in a safe way. We had to make sure we had a certain amount of people together and how we social distanced. It was a challenge, and I think the product that was produced after going through all these different restrictions is amazing. You wouldn't know what was going on behind the scenes. It's challenging, but everybody worked as a team to deliver the end result.
The very first part of the exhibition is about Churchill and his connection to the Marlborough line. So the purpose of that part of the exhibition is to explain what Churchill's connection was. He was never Duke of Marlborough, but he did grow up at Blenheim. It's quite a difficult message to portray, and so the best way to do it is visually with a family tree, because that enables you to see his connection to the very first Duke and how the line of succession works. So you're able to click on different members of the family, find out a little bit about who they were. Some of the duchesses also have very interesting stories behind them, so it's always nice to include some female stories in there. And there was, quite a lot of time put into developing that, making sure it was accurate, getting all of the images in, and making sure that it worked in the space.
My favourite aspects of the final production really are hard to describe because I think it's an amazing tool. I love the little cameo films, especially as we used some of our local staff. There's a scene using one of our little ponies from the estate, which is fantastic. But I also love the way the stories link together. So at each topic, there's a story, there's artifacts, there's quotes, there's all sorts of things that wrap around that story. So for me, I think I love the whole thing, obviously, because I helped ATS put it together. So I think it's all really, really great quality, and I can't really pick out my best bit.
One of the days we had on set young Churchill and his brother, and we had a set of toy soldiers that were actually from the period, and one of the most expensive props we've ever had to hire in. So we had to bring someone in to actually set up these toy soldiers in a historically accurate formation on the floor in the library at Blenheim, and then have these 2 young boys sit down and pretend to play with them. And I just remember looking through the monitor and seeing the shot and thinking how filmic and amazing it looked, and that was a really great moment.
The benefits of creating a digital exhibition, for us, it was it's accessible. It's accessible to all, whether you're at home, overseas, schools, etc. Anybody can download this exhibition for free and learn about the story of Winston Churchill and his connection with Blenheim. So for us, that was one of our main criteria for having a digital exhibition. It can be translated into several languages very easily, unlimited content, so it can be added to, changed, amended. If something new comes along, it can be added in. So and it is much, it doesn't take up space. So a physical exhibition is restricted by what you can do, but a digital exhibition you can just add to and add to and add to. So it ticks so many boxes to have this tool available.
Working with the team at Blenheim was really good fun. I think by the end of it, because we'd all been, we had this sort of feeling of camaraderie because we'd achieved something during COVID, which is quite unusual, and we'd spent all this time on these Zoom calls. To this day, I haven't actually met quite a few of the team in person, but by the end we were all quite close, and it was just it was a lovely, collaborative, friendly experience from start to finish, really.
The reaction has been fantastic. Lots of great feedback. We know that it's been used in schools. We know that it's been downloaded overseas, and we're using it on site. So as people leave the exhibition, the guides are encouraging people to use the QR code and to visit the app to learn more. And we're pretty sure that people go home and do that. So great feedback.